My wife invited the one person I couldn't stand. Before we begin the story, make sure to subscribe to our channel and never miss more incredible stories every day. My wife smiled like we were hosting the neighborhood watch. "Noah," she said, chin angled toward the door. "You remember Cole?" "I remember him the way a scar remembers the knife." The porch light flickered once and stayed on, painting him in the same warm glow we use for Christmas photos. He held a bakery box like a peace treaty and tilted his head, the way he did before every lie. "I work as a home inspector. I'm the guy who notices hairline cracks, missing GFCIs, and roofs that will fail the first time spring storms lean hard. People trust me because I write what is true, even when the truth costs a deal." Cole laughed at that once, called me Noah the nitpicker, like honesty was a party trick I should grow out of. I told Mara years ago there was exactly one person I wouldn't host under our roof. We argued then. She said forgiveness looked good in sunlight. I said forgiveness without repair is a hole in the floor that swallows you when you forget. We never tested the boundary again, not until tonight, when she texted neighbors about a casual backyard supper. The grill hissed in the yard, the table was set, the string lights trembled in the breeze. I could hear Aunt Ruth in the kitchen with the lemonade, banging the metal ladle louder than necessary. She knows the story. She watched me rebuild after Cole turned a simple inspection into a career-ruining mess. Cole reached out. Mara had whispered earlier, he wants closure. She had her PR smile ready, the one that erases friction in roomfuls of tense people. But I'm not a roomful. I'm her husband. My boundary wasn't decorative. I stood in the doorway and took stock of what I stood to lose if I erupted. Clients who lived on our block, an HOA board with long memories, and the brittle dignity of our small, careful home. In the distance, a dog barked and a car door shut like a gavel. I stepped back to let them in because I didn't want to make a scene on the porch. Cole smelled like cedar and salesman cologne, and the bakery box sagged at one corner. Then I saw Mara's eyes flick right, as if signaling him. Cole and I met at a condo flip 6 years ago. He sold speed and certainty to investors. I sold the bad news they didn't want. The day our friendship died, he leaned on me to soften a report, just enough to push the sale through. "No one's going to sue if the balcony lasts another year," he joked, handing me a pen and a cold soda. I handed the pen back. The buyer walked. The investor raged. Cole called me self-righteous in front of the crew, loud enough that the drywallers paused like referees. After that, my phone started ringing with misunderstandings. A lender asked why my reports suddenly contradicted industry norms. A client repeated a rumor that I had a vendetta against flippers. Someone posted a fake review claiming I extorted a fee to look the other way. I traced the pattern to one person, Cole, who always denied, always shrugged, always smiled. The worst part wasn't the money I lost. It was the way Mara flinched every time I said his name, as if the sound could crack our windows. 2 months ago, I got a text from an unknown number, a photo of my truck parked outside a townhouse, captioned, "Nice to see you working for my clients again." No name, but Cole's fingerprints were on the smirk. I switched inspection routes for a week. I told Mara we should install cameras, upgrade locks. She said, "You're spiraling," and kissed my forehead and went to bed. Today in the kitchen, Aunt Ruth dried bowls and said, "Forgiveness is a ladder, not a trampoline. You don't bounce back to where you were." She held my gaze, then looked past me to the table where Mara had placed 5 plates instead of 4. "Who's the extra 4?" she asked. "Ellis," Mara said, casual as steam. "He can stop by later." Ellis chairs the HOA. He's also a part-time mediator. My stomach went cold. The casual supper was starting to feel like a hearing with appetizers. I heard Cole laugh softly in the hall, easing into the house like water through a hairline crack. He knew our rooms. He always learned the map first, then chose the best exit for himself. I steadied my hands on the counter and reminded myself what I believe. Truth survives the sunlight. But truth alone doesn't explain why Mara invited my one boundary. The first red flag was a calendar invite labeled Neighbor Outreach, sent from Mara's PR account, with my address as the location and Cole's initials hidden in the description. She said it was a placeholder, something she forgot to delete. The second was the way she turned her phone face down when I walked in, even though we never played that game. "I'm planning something nice," she said. "Don't ruin surprises." At noon, while I changed the propane tank, I heard her in the pantry with the door almost shut. "No, speaker off," she whispered, and the silence after felt heavy, like someone pressing a pillow over a radio. When she emerged, she wore her nice calm smile and asked if I could check the outlet by the patio. I checked it and the one beside it, and every switch in the house, because motion steadies me. Ruth noticed the extra folding chairs, the third platter of chicken, and the fact that Mara was marinating charm like it was the main course. "Who else?" Ruth asked again, wiping her hands. "Just a favor," Mara said. "A simple favor." When my wife says simple, she means complicated with lipstick. Cole arrived early, bakery box sweating, eyes taking inventory. Our family photos, the inspection license framed above the desk, the small stack of mail on the entry table. He lingered on the mail, reading the top envelope upside down. I moved it to a drawer. He smiled, too casual. While I lit the string lights, my phone buzzed. A Venmo notification that Mara had sent $50 to CL with a key emoji. We share a household budget. We do not share cryptic keys. I looked through the old transactions, twice in August, once last week, always late at night. A key, a leaf, a lock. I felt the old heat rise, the alarm in my spine saying something structural is wrong. When I asked Mara, she said, "Cole got us the bakery discount." I paid him back. We do not need discounts that arrive with shadows. The propane hissed like a warning, and the sky turned that strange, pre-storm violet that makes every edge look sharper. I decided then to stop guessing and start taking quiet notes. It escalated the moment we sat down. Cole took the seat with the best view of me and the back door. He always liked exits. "So, Noah," he said, laying the vowels flat. "Still finding phantom risks in perfect houses?" The neighbors laughed lightly, not knowing the history, just hearing a line about an overcautious inspector. Mara's fingers tightened around her glass. "We celebrate safety in this house," she said, smiling too widely. "Of course," Cole said, nudging the bakery box forward. "Here's to safety." He lifted his cup and let it hover. "And second chances." The words landed on the table like another place setting. I tasted metal. I was ready to stand when my phone vibrated again. This time a message forwarded from an unknown email to my work account. A PDF titled Shared Obligation Agreement. The preview showed two names in the signature lines, Mara Jensen and Cole Lang. My hands went cold before I even opened it. I excused myself to check the grill. In the kitchen, Ruth followed and closed the door with her hip. "You're pale," she said, reaching for the towel. I showed her the preview. She read the names, then looked up with that flat, steady stare she saves for broken promises. "Don't blow up in the dining room," she said. "Make a record." She put her phone on the counter. Date, time, subject line. Brief. Back outside, Ellis had arrived, as if conjured by a calendar. He shook my hand like we were discussing fences. "Heard there was a lively dinner," he said, eyes calm behind his glasses. Ellis knows how to hold a room without owning it. He took the empty seat between Ruth and Cole, a rope between two boats. I opened the PDF under the table, screen dimmed. Notarized last month. The subject, a temporary guardianship if certain conditions arose. The second page referenced our mortgage and a homeowner's insurance riders list. My name wasn't on any line, not even as notified spouse. The edges of my vision pulsed. Cole lifted his fork and said, "Shall we discuss our agreement, Mara?" I slept on the couch that night, if you could call it sleep. The cushions felt like consequences. Mara stood in the doorway once, a blanket in her arms, and asked, "Are we really doing this?" I said, "We're doing documentation." She placed the blanket over me anyway, the kindness that makes arguments crueler. "I didn't betray you," she whispered. "I tried to protect us." The pronoun us floated like a balloon with a slow leak. In the morning, Ruth made coffee strong enough to polish metal. She sat across from me, elbows on knees. "What's the goal?" she asked. "Not revenge," I said, surprising us both. "I want the truth in daylight, and I want our house unleveraged by strangers." She nodded once, approval like a small medal. "Then you need dates, amounts, and a witness." She tapped the table. "Ellis." I checked our accounts. One new insurance rider 3 weeks ago, additional coverage for property damage during temporary occupancy. I called the agent and asked for the signed request. She emailed a scan. It showed Mara's signature, witnessed by C.L., in messy block letters. My pulse turned into a slow siren. I saved the file and named it clearly. Writer underscore request underscore July underscore 12 underscore signed underscore CL. PDF. Venmo showed 4 transfers labeled with emojis and once with storage. I asked Mara to sit with me. She crossed her arms and stared at the wall over my head. Cole's brother needed a place to keep equipment for a week, she said. The storage unit was in Cole's name. He promised a quick swap. Ellis said it could be fine if documented. That last part felt like a handrail in a burning stairwell. Why didn't you tell me? I asked. She blinked hard. Because you say no to Cole like it's a prayer, she said, voice thin. Sometimes no makes enemies we can't afford. I looked at the framed inspection license, at the seal I earned by saying no when it mattered. The couch imprint on my cheek ached. I told Mara I would pull the documents myself and talk to Ellis with her there. She nodded, terrified and relieved. 2 states separated by a hairline crack. Then her phone buzzed with Cole's name, and she didn't answer. The storage unit smelled like dust and winter breath. I signed in as an authorized spouse. Mara had added me yesterday after a long pause and a longer exhale. Unit 114 was halfway down, behind a pillar with flaking paint. The metal door rolled up with a groan like a bad confession. Inside, 2 contractor bins, a stack of sealed banker's boxes, and a folded banner that read, Langhome Solutions, we fix what inspectors fear. I stared until the letters blurred. I started with the banker's boxes. Receipts for staging supplies. A printout of an email chain between Mara and Cole about a neighborhood pilot event to showcase affordable safety upgrades for older homes. The dates overlapped with the rumor months, back when my name kept showing up with a sneer. The idea, in theory, wasn't terrible. Free seminars, discount detectors, properly grounded outlets. The problem wasn't the pitch, it was the pitchman. In the second box, I found a manila envelope stamped by a notary. Temporary guardianship in case of incident. It read, listing our address, Aunt Ruth as secondary, and a clause about interim decision-making for property access. Someone had tried to build a bridge for a flood I hadn't agreed existed. Tucked behind it was a glossy brochure showing Cole as a community safety ambassador. I took photos of everything, timestamp visible, my face pale in the reflection on my phone screen. In the contractor bin, a doorbell camera still in its packaging, a Wi-Fi extender, and a folder labeled Ellis Notes. Inside were bullet points in Ellis's tidy print about liability, volunteers, and who holds keys. At the bottom, a post-it. Any involvement must be explicit, written, and revocable by Noah. The post-it felt like an anchor thrown too late. I closed the unit and leaned against the warm metal, counting breaths to 8, the way the therapist taught me after the condo flip. The plan formed itself. Assemble documents. Ask Ellis to verify. Set a meeting where light could reach every seam. Then I noticed the storage contract listed Cole as emergency property contact. I spent the afternoon at the bank, where time moves like syrup and pens are leashed. The clerk printed our mortgage addenda and watched me with the polite concern of someone handing over a delicate heirloom. You'll want page 4, she said, tapping the place where the writer referenced temporary third-party access during sanctioned community events. The clause had language I recognized from Ellis's notes, but the signature witness still read CL. I asked for the notarization log. She raised an eyebrow, but Ellis had left a letter on file authorizing me to review relevant entries if accompanied by him or if he confirmed by phone. He picked up on the second ring and said, I'll be there in 10. Ellis's presence made the bank brighter. He wears calm like a vest. Noah's here to understand, not to fight, he told the clerk, and the tension left her shoulders. We reviewed the log together. The notary had verified Mara's ID, and C.L. had presented a card that checked out. Cole is careful when it matters, Ellis said, not admiring, just accurate. I advised a narrow, revocable framework, Ellis continued, assuming Noah would consent. Consent never arrived. He looked at me. I should have insisted on joint signatures from the start. He didn't say sorry. He didn't need to. He slid a sheet toward me. How to revoke access, how to update writers, how to document notice. It was a recipe for daylight. I recorded a short call to my own voicemail summarizing the date, the documents, and next steps. I emailed myself the files with clear names and the bank's stamped cover sheets. Then I asked Ellis to meet tomorrow evening in the HOA room with Mara and Cole present. He nodded once, then twice, like a metronome keeping us honest. On my way out, my phone pinged again. A payment received from C.L. for $50. Note, for the upgrade prototype. Only Mara and I share that account. The funds had been deposited and then immediately transferred out to the storage facility. The loop was tight and practiced. I realized Cole was already rehearsing for a performance under our lights. Dinner that night was quieter, the kind that hums with withheld sentences. Mara put her fork down after 3 bites. "Are we enemies now?" she asked, voice small. "No," I said, "but we're not improvising law in our living room." She stared at the salt shaker like it might explain marriage. "He told me if we partnered, he'd stop stirring rumors," she said. "He said he'd make it right." The deal was a bribe with better lighting. Ruth rinsed plates, as if scrubbing could change nouns into verbs. "Boundaries aren't punishments," she said without looking up. "They're handrails when the stairs are wet." Mara nodded once, then again, then pressed her palms flat on the table. "I'm scared," she said. "Our emergency fund is thin. My contract might not renew in December. Cole promised sponsorship money for the safety seminars. If they worked, we could help older neighbors, and our name would be on the flyers." There it was, appearances braided to survival. I told her about the storage contract listing Cole as emergency contact. She shut her eyes. "He said it was temporary," she whispered. I slid Ellis's revocation steps across the table. "Tomorrow," I said, "we do this right. With witnesses. With signatures. With sunlight." She nodded, tears refusing to fall. At 9, Cole texted me directly. "Proud of you for coming around. Big day tomorrow. Wear your inspector hat." I didn't reply. I stood on the back step and felt the night press into my ears. The string lights swayed, a small constellation shifting above cheap patio chairs. Somewhere a fox barked, wild and sharp. When I came back inside, the house felt like a stage set waiting for actors. I collected my notes, charged my phone, and placed a pin beside each seat at the dining table, then moved them to my bag because no one signs anything here anymore. I steady my breath and note the details carefully. I keep my tone level, even as my stomach tightens. I repeat the facts slowly, so nothing gets lost or twisted. Cole arrived early again, smiling like he already owned the outcome. Morning peeled open like old tape. I lined the documents on the table by category: bank writer, storage contract, Venmo transfers, notarized guardianship, Ellis's step sheet. I added a page of my own, sequence of events, with dates and locations so no one could pretend to forget. Mara watched from the hallway, arms wrapped around herself like a borrowed coat. "If we do this publicly," she said, "we can't put it back." I said, "If we don't, we keep living with shadows, and shadows charge rent." Ellis texted the HOA room code and confirmed he would bring the notary who certified the guardianship envelope. "Everyone can speak," he wrote. "Everyone signs their understanding." It sounded clinical, a clean incision rather than a brawl. Ruth brewed coffee in a travel mug and handed it to me like a medal. "You win by staying boring," she said. "Facts, not fireworks." I rehearsed the opening. "Thank you for coming. Here are my materials. Here is what I accepted. Here is what I did not." I would ask direct questions and make no speeches. I would give Mara first chance to explain her fear in her own words. I would give Cole the length of his rope and no more. At 11, a new email arrived from Lang Home Solutions with a subject line that made my mouth go dry. Partnership launch agenda. The PDF outlined a demo schedule at our house on Saturday: doorbell camera, outlet upgrades, attic inspection, led by Noah. My head rang. Attached was a draft flyer with our address partly blurred and my inspection license number stamped like an endorsement. He'd set the table and written my name on the place card. I forwarded the email to Ellis and to myself, then printed 2 copies for the table. I called the insurer and put a temporary hold notice on any claims related to community events at our address. "Is there an event?" the agent asked. "There is not," I said, "and there will not be without my written consent." I steady my breath and note the details carefully. I keep my tone level, even as my stomach tightens. I repeat the facts slowly, so nothing gets lost or twisted. Cole had planned a show, and he expected me to play along. We met that afternoon for what Mara called a make-up dinner. Just us, before the meeting. She cooked pasta and set 2 candles like fragile referees. "Please," she said, "don't humiliate me in front of Ellis." I put my hand over hers and felt the tremor there, the private earthquake no neighbor hears. "Tell me why," I said. "Tell me what Cole is holding." She stared at the steam, then spoke so softly I had to lean in. "6 months ago," she said, "my firm cut hours. I was afraid we'd lose the house if anything went wrong. The car, the water heater, one medical bill. Cole said investors were sponsoring neighborhood safety seminars. If we hosted, our insurance might discount premiums, his words, not mine, and he'd stop the rumors hurting your book. He said it would protect us and make you look like a hero." Her voice cracked on hero, a word I distrust when it's used as bait. "He asked for temporary access in case equipment was delivered," she continued. "He said Ellis advised it, and I believed him because Ellis was copied on one early email." She looked up, pleading. "I thought the guardianship clause only applied during events. I didn't understand the scope." She brushed away a tear, impatient with herself. "I wanted safety. I bought a wolf in a hard hat." I almost reached for her then, almost said we could quietly unwind it, almost let the meeting vanish into private apologies. The 2 candles bent toward each other like tired listeners. My phone buzzed. "Ruth, don't flinch now." A second later, "Ellis. Bank confirmed he tried to pre-authorize equipment with your name." The room snapped back into focus. Mara watched my eyes return to steel. "Do what you have to do," she said, voice low. "Just don't burn us down." I nodded. I could take heat without starting a fire. That's what inspectors do. We test, we verify, we document, and we sign off only when the structure holds. I steady my breath and note the details carefully. I keep my tone level, even as my stomach tightens. I repeat the facts slowly, so nothing gets lost or twisted. Then someone knocked, and Cole's shadow stretched across our hallway. The HOA room smells like dry erase markers and old carpet. Fluorescent lights flatten everyone equally, which is merciful. Ellis sat at the head with a yellow pad, the notary beside him, stamp case closed. Ruth leaned near the coffee urn like a sentry. Mara took the chair to my left, palms open on the table. Cole sauntered in last, wearing the grin he saves for ribbon cuttings. "We're here to verify," Ellis began, voice steady. "No accusations until evidence is described and acknowledged." He nodded at me. I passed around the packet: timeline, riders, storage agreement, Venmo trail, guardianship, and the partnership launch agenda flyer with my license number. "I did not consent," I said. "My name appears, my house appears, my license appears, and I did not consent." Cole rested his chin on his hand, that practiced posture of bored innocence. "It was a draft," he said. "A courtesy draft. I assumed Noah would be flattered." Ruth coughed, not politely. Ellis raised a finger. "Mr. Lang," he said, "we're dealing in specifics." He turned to the notary. "Please confirm the guardianship envelope and the witness signature on the rider." She read the entries, then nodded. "Verified," she said. "Witness, CL." Mara spoke, voice thin but clear. "I wanted a safety program. I wanted the rumors to stop. I agreed to draft terms, not to bypass my husband." She looked at me as if daring me to disagree. I didn't. She was telling the truth now. I played the voicemail I had left myself at the bank, summarizing dates while standing under the clerk's clock. The room listened to my own voice describe the steps for revocation and notice. It sounded clinical and tired and, to my surprise, kind. "Do you have a contract showing sponsor funding?" Ellis asked Cole. "Invoices. Proof beyond a flyer?" Cole reached into his leather folder and paused one beat too long. The beat where confidence checks its pockets and comes up empty. He produced a letter, and Ellis's eyebrows rose like opening blinds. The letter was from a regional hardware chain, typed on real letterhead, the kind that smells faintly of toner and ambition. It outlined exploratory interest in supporting neighborhood safety demonstrations, contingent on clearances, insurance, and licensed oversight. No amounts, no dates, no signatures, only a printed name and a generic email. Ellis tapped the bottom line. "This is not funding," he said. "This is a conversation." I slid the draft flyer beside it, pointing to my license number. "I did not authorize this use," I said. "Any seminar using my credentials requires my direct agreement and control of scope." The notary clicked her pen twice, a quiet metronome. Cole shrugged, the move that used to untie knots. We're all on the same team, he said. We're trying to help old folks not burn their houses down. Ruth leaned forward. You tried to help yourself to our house, she said. Words matter. She turned to Ellis. Ask him about the storage contract listing him as emergency property contact. Ellis did. Cole smiled thinner. Logistics, he said. Delivery guys won't hand boxes to a porch. I put down one more document. A printout of an email where Cole requested pre-authorization for equipment removal if neighbor program stalls, listing my name as project lead. The timestamp matched the Venmo key emoji night. You wrote the stall before the program began, I said. You built the exit first. Cole's eyes flicked to Mara as if to borrow her steadiness. She didn't offer it. Ellis folded his hands. Mr. Lang, did you spread rumors implying Noah falsified reports? Cole cleared his throat. Industry talk is noisy, he said. Everybody hears things. Ellis waited, staring until the silence felt like weather. Answer the question. Cole's jaw ticked. I may have repeated concerns, he said. I did not invent them. Ruth's chair creaked. A rumor told twice is a new rumor, she said. The notary wrote something on her pad. The room adjusted itself around the sentence like furniture after a move. Then Mara opened her bag and placed one last envelope on table. Mara's envelope was small and heavy, the way grief is. Inside lay a handwritten note from Cole, dated 2 months ago, thanking her for courage to proceed while Noah hesitates, promising cleanup of any online noise. And this burned, social credit where it matters. It was a bribe written in compliments. Ellis read it twice, then passed it to the notary, who photographed it and returned it to Mara. I want it out, Mara said, voice shaking. I kept telling him to slow down. He said the sponsors would walk and the neighborhood would say Noah killed safety. She looked at me like we were standing on the same dock staring at the same storm. I am sorry I did not tell you. The apology didn't erase the signatures, but it started scrubbing the floor. Ellis cleared his throat. Here's what happens now, he said. Noah, read your revocations. Mara, state your withdrawal in your own words. Mr. Lang, acknowledge receipt. Notary, witness and stamp. The procedure unfolded like a recipe everyone finally followed. I revoked emergency contact status, storage access, and any implied authority to host programs using my license or our address. Mara withdrew consent for all drafts and named me as the only authorized decision-maker at our property. The notary stamped, firm and final. Cole tried one last pivot. We can still do this together, he said. With clearer terms. With Noah in charge. Ellis removed his glasses and polished them, the closest he comes to a sigh. No, he said. Trust is not a clause you can initial. I emailed our insurer from the table, copying Ellis, attaching the revocations and the notary seals. Ruth texted our closest neighbors. No event at our house. Please ignore any flyers. Then she added, if you hear rumors, send them to me. She wields reputation like a mop and a hammer. Cole stood slowly, smile gone. You're overreacting, he said. People will talk. I met his eyes. Let them, I said. They can talk about the facts we signed. Cole left, but not before delivering one promise that froze my spine. His promise was simple. I won't forget this. It sounded like a man who collects debts, not lessons. For a week, small storms blew through our routines. 2 clients called to clarify old reports. A neighbor asked if we were anti-community, and an anonymous post suggested my license was under review. I responded only with timestamps and seals. Ellis sent a brief to the HOA clarifying event protocols and requiring joint consent from property owners. The rumor cloud broke on the edges and thinned. Mara and I started therapy. We wrote what the counselor called a boundary script, the way people write emergency plans for earthquakes. We listed decisions requiring both signatures. We listed off-limits names, with Cole at the top in permanent marker. We agreed to use one shared calendar and to narrate financial anxieties before they mutate into bargains. It felt mechanical at first, then merciful. I replaced our door hardware and finally installed the camera from that storage bin, though I bought a new one with a receipt in my name. We invited 3 older neighbors over for coffee, not a seminar, and I answered their questions about carbon monoxide alarms and handrails without a flyer in sight. Practical, not performative, Ruth said, smiling small. At night, Mara would sometimes start to say, I just wanted, and then stop, and I would say, I know, because I did, and knowing didn't require forgetting. She wrote a short email to the hardware chain rescinding any implied association with our home. They replied with a polite line that said more than it seemed. We appreciate clarity. One afternoon, I opened a bill and found a zero balance statement from the storage facility. Paid in full, the note read and signed. Someone closed that door. Some doors you lock, some you watch until they swing shut. I steady my breath and note the details carefully. I keep my tone level, even as my stomach tightens. I repeat the facts slowly, so nothing gets lost or twisted. Then, months later, a plain envelope arrived with no return address. Inside was a single photo, the draft flyer with my license number blacked out by a fat marker, and across the image someone had written, "Message received." No signature, no threat, no apology, just an ending drawn in ink. I put it back in the envelope and filed it with the revocations. I keep papers. They remind me of where lines go. Here's what I learned. Boundaries are not punishments and not weapons. They are rails that keep you on the stairs when the lights flicker. Saying no does not make you dramatic. It makes you the adult in the room. Saying yes should always have a receipt. If someone needs secrecy to protect you, they are protecting something else. I believe in repair. I believe people can change when they do the boring work, signing forms, showing receipts, naming fears in daylight. Mara did the work. We still love each other with a new kind of honesty, the kind that doesn't depend on anyone's grin. We plant herbs along the back fence and label them because labels help in kitchens and in marriages. Practical, not performative. Sometimes I think about Cole pacing in whatever room he uses as a mirror. I don't wish him harm. I wish him receipts, witnesses, and the quiet bravery of an unremarkable day. I wish him the humility to stop staging shows in other people's houses. That's not my task, though. My task is the next inspection, the next outlet, the next roof that will or won't hold. If you're listening, wondering where to draw your line, write it down. Tell someone who will hold it with you, and never let a smiling guest move it by an inch. I steady my breath and note the details carefully. I keep my tone level, even as my stomach tightens. I repeat the facts slowly, so nothing gets lost or twisted. Because the house you save might be your marriage, not just your home.